Billionaire comes home early, finds his maid with his triplets. What he saw left him speechless. The morning sun spilled across the marble floors of the Marlowe estate like liquid gold, painting the quiet halls in soft, warm light. It was a peaceful Tuesday, the kind of day when birdsong replaced alarms and the world seemed momentarily softer. But peace shattered into something unrecognizable the moment Alaric Marlowe, one of the country's youngest billionaires, stepped into his own home 6 hours earlier than expected. He had returned from a canceled investor flight, a rare gap in the relentless schedule that governed his life, hoping to surprise his staff with a day off and maybe rest for the first time in weeks. But instead, as he reached the nursery wing he rarely visited, he froze at the sound that drifted out. Laughter. Not one laugh, not two, but three tiny, bubbling laughs intertwined with the gentle, tired hum of a woman's voice, a woman who shouldn't have been anywhere near that room. And when the door creaked open under his hesitant push, everything he thought he knew about his home, his staff, and his own judgment shattered in a single breath. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us of humanity, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Touch of Kindness Stories. It truly helps keep these stories alive. Alaric stood still, hidden partially behind the half-open door, his breath lodged in his throat. The room was bathed in daylight, curtains swaying gently as a breeze slipped in through the balcony door. And there, kneeling on the soft carpet amidst toys, lay Celine Hartwell, his maid. A quiet young woman with shy eyes, soft brown curls tied back in a loose bun, and a past she never spoke about. But what stunned him were the three small infants sitting around her, triplets, all with matching hazel eyes and dark curls. They were no older than 8 months, their cheeks plump, their smiles luminous. Celine wasn't just watching them. She was loving them, feeding them carefully, kissing their tiny foreheads, whispering to them as though they were her whole world. That triplets, in his home, with his maid. The questions struck him one by one like falling bricks. Why were they here? Why had he never been told? How could she possibly care for 3 babies while working full-time? And how, after living in the same house for nearly a year, had he missed the signs of exhaustion hiding behind her polite smiles? He stepped inside quietly. And the moment he did, his eyes landed on something even more startling. The babies looked familiar. Too familiar. The shape of their eyes, the curl in their hair, the small birthmark on the youngest boy's collarbone, the same birthmark Alaric had. A cold rush of confusion surged through him, followed by something deeper, something he had buried for years. But the story didn't begin in that nursery. The truth had roots buried far deeper than either of them expected. Celine had been hired by Alaric's household manager 11 months ago. She was soft-spoken but unbelievably hard-working, always arriving before the chefs and leaving after the gardeners. Alaric rarely saw her. His business life consumed nearly every hour, but when he did pass her in the halls, he noticed something unusual about her aura. A quiet grief. A weight she carried silently, almost painfully. What he didn't know was that before working for him, Celine had survived a storm most people wouldn't live through. Being abandoned by her fiancé during pregnancy with triplets. She had worked 2 jobs while pregnant, fainted twice, been hospitalized once, and after giving birth, lost her apartment. With no family left, she ended up in a shelter, the humiliation of it carving scars into her spirit. When Marlowe Mansion opened a live-in maid position, she took it, desperate to survive. She hid her babies at the shelter at first, walking miles on foot every night just to breastfeed them. But shelter hours changed, and she would lose them if she didn't take them with her. She brought the triplets into the estate secretly, hiding them in an unused nursery at the far end of the home. She cleaned, polished, scrubbed, and folded while slipping away every 3 hours to feed them, soothe them, rock them. She barely slept. She barely existed. She was drowning, but she never let it show. Alaric, for all his wealth, suffered a different kind of emptiness. He inherited responsibility far too young, running a multi-billion-dollar corporation left by a father he barely knew. Money never filled the hollow silence of his penthouse or the ache of losing both parents before he turned 30. He built his empire as a distraction from grief, from loneliness, from the guilt of success that felt undeserved. His mansion was immaculate, polished, grand, but devoid of warmth. No laughter, no family, a palace that echoed. Until today. Today, 3 tiny voices broke the silence. He stepped further into the room, and Celine startled, spinning around with fear exploding in her eyes. She braced herself for the worst: eviction, police, humiliation, the terror she'd lived with every day since hiding her children. But Alaric didn't shout. He didn't move with anger. He simply looked, deeply, painfully, silently looked, from her face to the babies and back again. It was then that he saw the exhaustion in her trembling hands, the dark circles bruised under her eyelids, the way her shoulders sagged from carrying too much alone. She wasn't a deceiver. She was a mother fighting every second to keep her children safe in a world that had tried to break her. While his mind reeled, the smallest of the triplets, the one with the faint birthmark, reached toward him with chubby, curious fingers. And something inside his chest cracked open. Not confusion, not anger, but emotion, overwhelming, warm, unfamiliar emotion that he slowly picked up the child, feeling tiny fingers curl around his thumb. A softness filled his eyes, one Celine had never seen before, and in that moment, something shifted in the air. Alaric realized the problem wasn't the babies. It was the cruel pressure of a world that left decent people like Celine unnoticed, unsupported, and invisible that he didn't ask her to explain. Not yet. Instead, he sat beside her on the carpet. Noon sunlight spilled across their faces as the babies cooed, grabbing at his tie, pulling at his sleeve, giggling like rain after drought. For the first time in years, Alaric felt alive. He felt joy he had never felt with wealth, deals, or luxury. But life wasn't a movie scene. There were challenges waiting. First came the moral conflict. Could he allow her to stay? Should he offer help? Was he crossing boundaries as an employer? And yet, every time he tried to reason, the soft weight of the baby in his arms grounded him. Something inside whispered that this moment wasn't an accident. It was meant to happen. Celine, overwhelmed and embarrassed, finally broke down, tears spilling silently. She apologized again and again, her words trembling, her heart prepared for destruction. She told him everything: the abandonment, the shelter, the fear, the double shifts, the hiding, the heartbreak of raising triplets alone. Alaric listened, really listened. And by the time she finished, afternoon sunlight warmed the room, and 3 babies slept soundly between them. Alaric realized that kindness wasn't just charity, it was responsibility. It was seeing someone suffering and refusing to look away. It was finally understanding that wealth meant nothing if it couldn't change someone's world. That day, he made a choice that altered all their lives. That he arranged a safe room for the babies near his own suite. He hired 2 nannies to help Celine. He ensured she would never worry about food, diapers, formula, or shelter again. And more than that, he gave her back something she'd lost long ago: dignity. Days turned into weeks, and the mansion transformed. Laughter echoed in hallways once filled with cold silence. Breakfast stretched into warm, chaotic mornings. Alaric found himself waking early just to see the triplets' sleepy faces. He attended doctor checkups, bought tiny matching outfits, filmed their first attempts to crawl. Every moment healed something inside him he never knew was broken. But it wasn't until one warm afternoon, when he came home to find all 3 triplets taking their first steps toward him while Celine watched with teary pride, that he realized something deeper had happened. He had become more than a helper, more than a provider. He had become part of their world, and they had become part of his. Life had given him a second chance at family, and he wasn't going to waste it. That if this story touched your heart even a little, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Touch of Kindness Stories. Your support helps keep these emotional stories alive. Special request: comment, kindness lives here. If you believe every act of compassion changes the world. As the sun dipped low that day, painting the estate in soft golden hues, Alaric stood in the garden, watching Celine guide the toddlers across the grass. And in that simple, breathtaking moment, he finally understood why fate had brought him home early. Because sometimes the greatest miracles arrive quietly, wrapped not in luxury, but in love, laughter, and the unexpected beauty of second chances.